matter where I go, no matter where. As you can see, I'm repping that BMT. No matter where I go, no matter where I be.
Representing for my brother BMT.
Got my man Austin in the building. What up, bro?
What's good? Travel is life.
This how we roll. Look, I just happened to get off the elevator. Look at it. The BMT shirt on. You know, we representing all the way in Thailand, man.
This shirt is so dope, man. It shows off your guns, fits your muscles, gives you room at the bottom for the belly, and then you repping the BMT brand, man. So make sure y'all pick up that BMT shirt because it's fire. It looks good. He got them in different colors, and I'm telling y'all, man, the fit, it ain't that cheap bullshit. It's a real quality shirt, man. I love it, BMT. Shout out to you, man. Thank you for blessing me with the shirt, and I'll see you on the other side. You dig?
Go cop the new merch.
All right, and we are live. Welcome, family, to another show. Today we have a very important show for you guys today in regards to safety in Medellin. I want to get right into it and appreciate you guys joining us tonight. I want to welcome to the show Sherweezy.
What's up, y'all?
What's good, man? How's everything going with you?
Can't complain. I'm here, man. So everything's well, man.
Excellent, man. Well, first, before we get into it, man, I'm happy everything worked out for you, bro. When you shared the story in the Facebook group, man, I hit you up right away. You gave a real detailed account of what happened your last day. It was your last day in Medellin, right?
Yep. We were leaving in like 10 hours.
Okay, so before we get into it, like, tell us just your general rundown of the trip before everything happened in Medellin, because it was your first time, correct?
Yep. So my first time in Medellin.
Okay.
But I travel pretty often. I travel like once a month. You know, like this year I've been to I did Tulum, Punta Cana, Dubai, Paris, Medellin, and I'll be in Cuba in 2 weeks. So the trip was a birthday trip. We actually were going to go to Jamaica. But a couple of the guys had been to Cartagena already. We looked up flights to Medellin. It was cheap. And we're like, yeah, we've never been there. Let's go. Weather should be nice. So trip started off really well, man. Some of the best excursions that I've been on anywhere, you know, like paragliding. We went to both soccer games, Team Nacional soccer game and Team Medellin's. That was incredible. We went to Guadalupe. We went to Comuna 13. So we did a lot of the tourist stuff. That was fun. And I really wanted to check out a lot of the restaurants and all that stuff like that. And of course, we hit the nightlife, you know, so clubs and those things.
Okay. And was this everybody's first time being out there in Medellin?
In
so
Medellin, yeah, so two of the guys have been to Cartagena before, and I have a lot of close friends and family members who have been to Medellin. Actually, I have some family members who were there like 2 weeks before, and they actually were going to try to meet us down there. So they were kind of the ones giving us the breakdown of where to go, where to stay, and all the rest of that stuff. And everything I kept hearing from everybody is like, yeah, you got to stay in Yaris Park. That's where everything is. You know, it's the safest area in Medellin. You know what I mean? You'll be able to walk to and from restaurants, clubs, whatever, and be fine. You know, as long as you're in that area, you're good.
Okay. So did anybody mention anything about safety or how dangerous Colombia could be?
So, I mean, a couple of the guys were like, you know, I mean, it's Colombia still, right? You know, I'm not, you know, whatever to that. But, you know, for the most part, they were like, it's not as dangerous as it was 10, 20 years ago. But there's specific areas that were supposed to be fine. So the first night, just so I got a feel of it, I booked through Airbnb a street food tour.
Okay.
That took us through Yaris Park, out to Provence and stuff like that. And a guy He was explaining to us like the safeties, like, you guys are coming down near the party and stuff like that. So he did tell us not to be in Yaris Park itself, rather to be in Provenza. That was a safer area. Right. But when he mentioned safety, he only mentioned safety with women, right? Because he talked about how he had gotten scoped before, and he's actually, Colombian. He actually told us, he was like, yo, don't touch any girl's phone, because sometimes they'll be like, oh, give me your number. They'll hand the phone there, and then there'll be scope on the phone or whatever it is like that. And then they'll like take you to an ATM and like rob you or something like that, right? But there was no mention of, watch out for dudes on motos and, don't wear this, don't be robbed and all this stuff like that. But, again, I'm pretty well traveled. I do know it's a poorer country. You don't really want to be, too flashy or anything like that, because that stuff can happen anywhere. You know what I mean? But nobody specifically was like, watch out for it was really more the women. Everybody was talking about watch out for the women.
I'm glad you mentioned that, because there's like this big misconception that the scope limit only happens to foreigners and tourists. And I try to explain to people, I'm like, nah, man, it can happen to the locals as well.
Yep.
And some people will say, oh man, they can't blow it in your face, or that's this. I'm like, nah, man, it's that powerful of a drug that people will walk up to you asking for directions and ask you where something is at. They'll point down to the piece of paper, you will look at it, and they'll blow it right in your face.
Right.
So it's a pretty powerful drug, and they can kind of administer it all types of ways, whether it be through their skin or breathing it on you, or putting it in your drink, putting it on your food. So it's a lot of different ways. So I'm glad you mentioned that. But so you say that everything was going well, and walk us through that last day from the morning. Just walk us through that last day.
So from the morning, during the week, we had met some local girls, some regular girls that took us around, did everything. Okay. They had, but it was the last night. Again, it was my cousin's birthday. So, last night we said our goodbyes or whatever. They left. That morning, I went to, I forgot the name of the cafe to have brunch.
Is it Sweet Georgia or?
No, not Sweet Georgia. It was the one with the nice like coffees and stuff like that.
Okay.
Jeez, I'll remember it a little later. So I did that. And we just basically, that was it. We packed, we hung out in the jacuzzi, and then at the end of the night, we're like, yo, it's our last night. It's my cousin's birthday. Was a couple days before. It's like our last night here. Let's just go out for a little bit, enjoy the city, and then come back home early, right? So for those who don't know, Medellin, that area everything closes around 4:00. All the nightclubs and stuff like that. So we went out. We didn't have any heavy drinks. We weren't wearing anything crazy. And for everybody asking, no, I wasn't wearing shorts, even though it's just like, I think that's stupid, because it actually was cold that week. It was raining all throughout the week, and it was nighttime. There was a nightclub that we went to that played like Afro beats, reggae, hip hop a lot. But that was empty. And then we went to, in Yaris Park, there's actually a nightclub called Yaris Park, right? So when you go into that nightclub, there's not really locals in there, local men. It's all foreign men and then like local girls. Okay. Right. Like you can just tell that's just kind of what it is. So, you're partying, they want to come party with you or whatever. We didn't really party. We didn't pop no bottles, even though a couple of nights before we did the whole bottle service and all that stuff like that. And we had walked home from Yaris Park. I walked home personally myself 4 times from Yaris Park around 4 to 5 o'clock in the morning. Sorry, Airbnb, because our Airbnb was probably like 5 to 7 minute walk from Yaris Park. So that night we only had a beer each, and I know because I bought it. We each had a Stella, right? Okay. We're just sitting there listening to music, checking out some girls, whatever it is like that. We left probably at like 1:40, right? So our flight was the next day at 2:00. We figured we're gonna leave a little bit early, and that's what we did. So we met a couple of girls, and then we're walking back to the Airbnb. All right, so we're walking back to the Airbnb. my Spanish ain't great, but I'm trying to have little conversations. Where you from? How old are you? Whatever it is like that. You know, one of the girls was from Venezuela. A lot of the girls was from Venezuela. And then we probably, I don't know if you know exact. There's another park. I don't know the name of the park, but it's right across from St. Iglesias Church. And
Parque de Poblado, I think.
yeah, yep.
Yeah.
So we usually there's like in that little intersection, there's people like doing like juggling stuff and blowing fire and all that stuff like that. So we took a right onto that main street and then took a left. So I don't know if you know that street. There's like, it goes down kind of like a hill. And then it's like not a major highway, but a highway crossing under a highway. So like the highway from the other side.
Yeah, I
know
exactly where you're at.
So as soon as we're walking down there, I have the girl I was talking to on my right side, and I'm on the left side right next to the street. And then I feel a moto pull up right next to us, right? So I didn't even see it. I just heard it, felt it, and I was just like, okay. But a little bit of like clarity on this. I didn't even see the moto because the day before when I was walking home, probably at like 5 o'clock, a moto pulled up on me. And it was that day I was like, oh shit, I'm about to get robbed. Right?
This is 5 p.m. or 5 a.m.?
5 a.m. Right? I'm like, oh damn.
5 a.m.
maybe,
morning. Okay, wow.
Maybe I shouldn't get robbed. But it was actually the police that pulled up on me. And that actually made me feel really safe because we probably are about 2 blocks from a police station. There's a boutique hotel right across. There's hotels, restaurants all around us, and cops were everywhere. Right? Cops were everywhere. So when the cops pulled up on me, you know, I don't do any drugs or anything like that. They were like, oh, do you have any, drugs? And I'm like, nah, I just had my little bag, some money. I thought they were going to ask me for some money. They didn't. And they just apologized. They said, oh, I'm sorry, have a great night. And I said, okay, no problem. And I was happy about that because I'm like, yo, the police presence is in here. It's crazy, right? Like they're on their motos, they're back and forth. No problem, right? They making sure everything's down. One thing that I might have forgot to mention, that day that we were walking home was a holiday. I don't know what holiday it was, but it was a holiday for Colombia. And I think this might have played a little bit of part into it because a lot of like the local hotels and restaurants that would have been open in that area were closed. So it wasn't as lively as it was the last couple of days, but when we found out it was a holiday, like the girls had told us, but we weren't really even thinking, kind of about that. So it wasn't as lively as it. So we're walking down. I feel the moto on side. So I'm thinking it's the cops again. Right.
Okay. Real quick. What time is it of the day?
It's about 2 a.m.
It's about 2 a.m. at night. Okay.
It's about 2 a.m. Right. And I know like people are like, oh, 2 a.m. is late. You walking around. But again, like, that area closes at 4 and I had walked home at 4 or 5. So we're thinking we're walking home early. Like it should be even more lively than it was before. Right. So it pulls up on my left. I don't even make a sudden turn. I'm a black male from America. I don't make sudden moves when the police are around, right? To kind of like something to happen, right? I know I'm just calm. I'm waiting for them to say something like, policia, excuse me, sir, da-da-da-da-da. Within 2 seconds, I hear bang, loud bang. And I'm just like, I know guns a little bit. I'm like, yo, that sounds like a 40. I was like, no way. And again, like the couple of days before, we had heard cars backfire. And I jumped when it backfired and people kind of laughed at me. So I'm like, okay, it's a car or something backfired. And then I just hear the girls scream. I hear my cousins yelling, no. And I don't even turn directly to it because the girl's on my right side. So she pulls me into my right side. So my back is turned to the bike. So I kind of do like a 360. And then I'm watching the girls run up the hill. And I don't see one of my cousins. I'm like, where the hell is he at? So I'm turning to the right. But at the same time, like this is all kind of fuzzy. But like, so when I see the girls running, when you see people running, you start to try to run that direction. But also while I'm running, I don't see them. So I'm looking to the right and then probably 30 to 40 feet, I see 2 guys on a moto. One's holding a huge revolver and it's smoking. And in my head, I'm like, no effing way. I go, like, this is not happening.
So real quick, how many
Yep.
of you were there?
There was 6 of us together, 3 boys, and then the 3 girls we met.
Okay, go ahead.
So when I see the gun smoking, I still didn't see my cousin, and I'm nervous. I'm like, should I be getting to the ground? Should I try to run? Because I looked at him and he looked like he was pointing the gun. I couldn't see exactly where he was pointing the gun. It's night. I could just see it smoking and whatever. So I couldn't tell if he was pointing it at me. I saw him looking at me until I looked a little bit more and I saw my one of my younger cousins there. And he's probably about 5 to 10 feet in front of him. And in that area, there's no cars. There's like nothing to hide behind. And then my heart dropped, right? Because this is my baby cousin. And I'm just like, no way. Like, I'm not going to be able to watch like him. Like I realized that he was just basically hawking. He was like hunting him down. And I was just like, I can't do anything. Right? Like I froze for a second because I'm like, he's about 50 feet away. I can't rush at him. I rush at him. It's a direct line, but if I was kind of easy at targets. So like, as I'm running up the hill, I'm turning, right? And I had some really cheap Walmart sneakers on and they were half a size too big and they weren't tied. So when I did that, my shoes came off because I'm running towards him and they kind of like fall and I fall. And that's when I kind of like scraped my knee and I heard another shot while lots of going. You know, trying to say as much English. I don't even know what I'm saying, but I'm trying to speak English to let them know, like, yo, whoever you think we are, we aren't. Because I was with them the whole time. There were no arguments. Right. And again, like the place that we are, there aren't really local men there. There's local girls and then there's us, you know, the gringos, the Americans and whoever else. We didn't get into no push and shoving matches with nobody. We're not overly flashy. I mean, you can tell we're American. Like, I mean, as much as you want to try to blend in, you can't. We walk different. We talk different. Like we have a different like they know we're not from there. And the women do as well, too. So for what seemed like 3 minutes, we're trying to like run away from the dude. I'm trying to throw my shoe at him to kind of like get him off of my cousin's heel a little bit. He points the gun at me. Like we're running around for it. It felt like 20 minutes, but it probably was about 2 minutes. And then coming out of that tunnel, a huge Coca-Cola truck comes out and that saved our lives because that was the cover that we used to run around it. So like when we ran back this way, of course, he's on a bike. Bikes don't reverse. They're not coordinated. It seemed like they were nervous too. Like they were new to this. And I thank God because if they really knew what we were gone. Like the first shot was point blank, like 5 to 7 feet. Like he was right there.
And how many
right?
How
like
many
I don't
shots
know
total
how we didn't
were fired?
At least 3. At least 3.
Shots.
That's what I can remember going off in my head. But it's like in the first one, I mean, and they were point blank range. You know what I mean? Like, so the whole time I'm sitting there just kind of in disbelief. So again, like, you know, I knew where we were at, and I've traveled to lots of different places before. I've actually been in Venezuela. I've been in the heart of Jamaica and like different places, Mexico. So like, I wasn't planning on getting robbed, but in my head, I had rehearsed what I would do if somebody did try me. Like a couple of Spanish words, like "lo siento," no problem, no police, like here, you can have it. What really threw me off about this is the guys didn't say a word. And in my opinion, how it felt, it didn't feel like a robbery at all. Because if he wanted to rob us, he could have had everything. They could have just pulled up in front on the moto, pulled out the guns. That would have been it. Like there's nowhere to run. Like we're done for, right? Here, you can take everything. And when that didn't happen, I was just, it scared the crap out of me because I'm just like, he wants us dead. For what reason? I don't know what happened. I don't know the reasoning. I know everybody's going to have their speculations on what we did wrong or what we did right. But how it felt like to me in the moment, it felt like a hit/execution, and it felt like a gang initiation or something, right? Like that's what it felt like, because like there just was no rhyme or reason. It was like this kid was, or man, or I don't know how old he is, was trying to
Broken out a little bit.
earn stripes. That's what it felt like. You know what I mean? You want to join this gang? Go. Yeah, it's kind of thing.
Yeah, cause so you broken out a little bit, but
yeah, that's how it felt like to me. It's happening, whatever. But that's how it felt in the moment. So when can you hear me now? Yeah, so they fired 3 shots. And then when the Coca-Cola truck came, we ran around that, and then we ran to the main strip by the park, by Tamagotchi Ramen and whatever. And I was bleeding profusely. I didn't know at that point if I was shot or if I just had a really bad gash. It turned out to be just a really bad gash. And then the girls who had ran up the hill, well, I don't think they were involved because they were the ones who went to get the police for us. Like, they didn't just split, right? They went and got the police. We didn't really speak good enough English to communicate what happened. And the way that they looked, it looked like their hearts were going to jump out of their chest, right? Like, it looked like they were just as confused and flustered as us. So I don't think so. Maybe they're good actors or whatever, but I don't think that they directly had anything to do with it.
So you say they was pretty much firing at close range, and I'm glad I'm glad that they missed. But when y'all ran past them, did they make an attempt to chase y'all down and continue to shoot?
So when we ran back, he tried to like reverse, but you can't reverse. So he's trying to like, so the driver's trying to back up and turn, and the shooter, because there's one shooter on the back of the bike, he doesn't know. He's trying to get off the bike to kind of chase us down and then get on the bike. They were just kind of confused, but like we're 1 street away from the main street, so I'm sure they're like, this didn't happen fast enough. We need to get the hell out of here, because he looked nervous, right? And I think one of the only reasons that he really missed all the shots is because he had a really big gun. He's a really little guy, and he was trying to shoot with one hand off the back of the bike. So when he's shooting, you know, the kickback is kicking the bullets into there. So he like the first shot he aimed directly at my cousin's head. Like the gun's pointed at his head.
Dang.
Right?
Wow.
The gun's pointed at his head. And I didn't see the first shot, but he goes, yo, he pointed it right at my head. And he goes, I thought I was hit, but I didn't feel nothing, so I just kept running. So like, I think that's one of the things that saved us, that there was definitely some inexperience there with that guy handling the gun on the back of the bike. So, and that's what kind of makes me more feel like this was some kind of initiation. Because if this was a guy who does this, we're out of here. You know what I mean? Like, he totally caught us off guard. I didn't know what the hell was happening. That was it. You know what I mean? I knew it was a possibility that you can get robbed anywhere, but there's no way that I was expecting somebody to try to like just straight up execute us. That's how it felt like to me, right? And just not ask for anything. You know, it would make me feel a lot better if I knew this was a robbery, and I could say, "Yo, listen, we're just stupid" or whatever it is like that. We shouldn't have did that, but that's what really throws me off.
Okay, and what was the police response? Did the police try to chase him down, or
no?
What was the police response?
The police response, shout out to the police. They made sure we were okay. But once he realized that I wasn't shot and nobody wasn't shot, it was just like, make sure you guys don't wear no jewelry. They kept talking about, you know, oh, they were trying to rob you, or, you know, whatever it is like that. That was it. There was no police report filed or whatever. They did help us get a taxi. It escorted the taxi to our Airbnb. So they pulled up right in front of the Airbnb and let us walk in or whatever. I even tipped them or whatever, because I don't really argue with cops, man. I think you get farther with sugar rather than shit. You know what I mean? So, but that was it, right? It was just like, you dumb foreigners, as long as you're not dead, we're not doing it. We're never going to cash the zoos. We don't give a fuck. That's how it felt.
Mm.
You know what I'm saying? So it ain't America where they were like, yo, they went and they sent a couple of cars to go looking around for them, or nah, that was it.
Mm. And somebody asked, was y'all wearing jewelry? But I think you already addressed that. But
So a cousin of mine did have jewelry. I don't think he was wearing it that night. We did actually even have an argument before the trip about bringing jewelry down there at all. I was just like, there's really no need for that. Like, they just kind of put a target on us. But again, they didn't ask for anything, right? Like, the shot went off before a word was said. They didn't reach for anything. I don't know if they just felt like maybe it would be easier to just kill these dudes and take it off of them. But to me, that didn't make sense too. Like, we're in a popular area where we're foreigners and there's cops everywhere. Yeah, so to me, if they wanted to rob us, you want to rob somebody without letting off any shots to alert people what's going on, right? So by them letting off the shots, they're either like the world's dumbest robbers, or, in my opinion, they were trying to kill one of us for whatever reason. I don't know. Maybe one of the girls was a cousin, a girlfriend, or what. I have no idea. But there were no words exchanged at all. And it happened like this. We didn't have any chance to give them any attitude. We didn't know what was going on. They pulled up. I didn't even know if they were police or not. And it was just like this. Boom. Point blank range aimed at his head.
Now, did anybody within the group have any incidents whatsoever, any arguments, any discrepancies with anybody on the trip that you know of? No. There were a couple of times that I ventured off on my own, so I don't know. But for the majority of the trip, we were with the same group of girls who basically were like our tour guides, right? Like, we weren't finding different girls every night or whatever it is again. And again, like, there's really, I don't know if it was the off season, but most of the clubs were empty except for Yaris Park, and there weren't really locals for us to bump into. The only locals we really bumped into are the ones walking up and down the main street, like trying to rap to us or trying to beg for money or whatever it's like that. And a couple of times we're like, no, thank you, or didn't give them money and stuff like that. But we gave money to a lot of people, like, you know what I mean? It just, sometimes it was just too much, So nothing, definitely nothing that night. Definitely no arguments that night. I don't know if something happened, kind of before. We did like try to buy some stuff from some of those guys, early in the week, and, just regular haggling price things like, oh no, that's too much. And, but nothing, you know what I mean? Because if we would have, I would have been on even more alert. And I think that's what I felt really comfortable. I'm not going to lie to you. I felt really comfortable, really safe. Like, again, I had walked home from Years Park 4 to 5 times that week at 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning. Now, I know a lot of people will say, like, we probably should have taken a cab or an Uber or stuff like that. And I think if I ever were to do it again, I absolutely would. But kind of how it's situated, it almost takes as long because of the one-ways and stuff, for a cab to take us to our Airbnb as it is for us to walk. Right? And the area is so nice and beautiful. We're on vacation. We're like, yo, let's just walk and enjoy it. You know what I mean? Probably was a mistake, but at the same time too, if this was like, them spotting us in the club for whatever reason and they saw a chain or whatever, it might have been worse if we were in a car, because there's nowhere to run in a car. I don't know if you saw Jake Paul's manager. He was actually there the same time we were, and like a couple of days before, he got shot in the backseat of a car. The moto pulled up right on, and they put a gun to the window, right? And he ends up getting shot in his leg. So, who's to say that wouldn't have happened to us? I do think that it's better for people to take those, and I'd probably never stay in an Airbnb again. I'd just spend the money and go to a hotel. But we had a large group, and we all wanted to stay together, so whatever, But if I ever were to do it again, there was any security at the Airbnb?
No, there were no security at the Airbnb. And that was one of the things that we went back and forth on, right? Because, we're on vacation, you want to meet some girls or whatever. And we know some of them who are in Cartagena is like, yo, they're not going to let girls back. Security sometimes don't let girls back. But in my head, I'm like, there's probably a good reason for that because some of these girls can be kind of trifling. You know what I mean? So we went back and forth and we were just like, all right, whatever. It's in a really nice area. Hopefully we don't need it. Like, that's how it was presented to us. Yeah, there's still some areas that some stuff can go down. But if you're in Yaris Park, it's like being in, I don't know what, Beverly Hills, right? Like, it's like, come on, you should be good. Like, you're spending good money to be in the area. And the reason why we're spending good money is that it's safe, because our Airbnb really wasn't all that, right? It actually almost was like a basement type thing, but we spent the money to be in the area because we felt like the area is going to be safe and it was close to everything. Like, when you go on TikTok and you look up restaurants and all that stuff, everything is right there.
You know what I mean? What general area you was in? Was it right kind of across that street, right across from the park?
It's probably like 4 blocks from the park. I think it was Cali 13 or 43.
Okay.
But there's like a huge mural right there, and then there's like 2 boutique hotels like literally across the street. Nice ones with rooftops and all the rest of that stuff. So, like, we're in the area. You know what I mean? We're in the area where people spend money. Those houses, those homes there are expensive. Even for America, like, it's not. We weren't somewhere in Comuna 13, in a shack. You know what I mean? Like, this is, the way it was presented to us, which might have been a little bit naive. Maybe we should have did more research, but we literally were talking to guys who were there a week or 2 before, and they're like, yo, as long as you're here, you're good. And when we actually explained it, because I actually, talked to the girls that we were with the whole week, and I explained it, she goes, like, they were shocked. Right, these are local girls who live. They was just like, that's really rare. Like we can't believe that happens. You know what I'm saying? Like, they didn't want it. One of the nights we went out with them, and we walked home with them around 4 to 5 o'clock in the morning. So I'm figuring, like, they're locals. If we're doing something stupid, they would tell us, right? They didn't say anything. It was like, all right, cool, let's walk. There wasn't no like, oh, maybe we shouldn't do this. So no. This area. They were like, cool. You know what I mean? Our tour guide, we actually saw him one of those nights when we were going out. Nothing. We were walking right in that same area, literally a block from where we got shot at. Nothing. There's no mention of it, right? Like, nobody's warning us about possibly getting shot by dudes on motos, right? It was all, watch out for these girls and drugs. That was it. Watch out for the girls and drugs. There was no mention of the other things from anybody.
Okay, so take us back real quick. You guys are running. You say you run around a Coke.
Yep.
All of y'all never separated, never spread out. It just kind of was.
So one of my cousins, he must have ran with the girls. When I heard the first shot, I didn't see him for the whole time. And that scared me too, because I'm like, Jesus Christ, what if he's somewhere shot, like bleeding? I don't know what the hell's going on. But I couldn't even look for him because they were on my other cousins. So when we ran around the Coke truck came. I don't think he knew what happened, but he like beeped the horn. Like, you know what I mean? I think he might have like startled them a little bit. They're like, oh shit, people are here to witness. And that's kind of what like saved us. I had left my shoes and my phone there. He came around. He brought me my phone and my shoes. Really nice dude, man. He looked out. I actually gave him a couple of dollars, for looking out. He could have just took my brand new iPhone and just been whatever. But I think that ended up saving our lives. That truck coming out. Maybe we would have got away without it, but there was nothing to hide behind. There were no cars. There were no trees. There was no like buildings. We would have just had to zigzag and hope for the best.
Well, I'm glad everybody's okay, man. That's a very crazy story, and I'm very sorry that happened to you, bro.
Yeah, me too, man. I mean, one of these, the story, obviously, some dudes are gonna take it left, but it's really for some people who actually haven't been there or who have been there and maybe are just a little bit more comfortable than maybe they should. Maybe my story is one out of a million or one out of a billion, but I just want to let people know that, yo, it can happen. You know, I'm not some passport pookie who's never been anywhere. Like I said, like I travel every month. I've been all over South America, all over the Caribbean. I've been to Europe. I've been to Asia. You know what I mean? Like I live in a city. You know what I mean? So like, it's not like I'm just some idiot running around. I mean, there's definitely some things I probably could have done better, but I'm just like, yo, if it could happen to me, then it probably can happen to somebody else too.
Did this situation pretty much turn you off of Medellin? Like, will you ever be going back, or you kind of good on Medellin?
I'm good on it for a little while, man. Again, I think I'd be a lot more comfortable if we got robbed. And I think not knowing exactly why what happened that night happened scares the shit out of me. Right? Like, I don't know if it's like, you know, we tired of these foreign black dudes coming throwing money in the club. Not that we weren't doing that, but I did see that while I was down there, and I was kind of like, come on, bro, what are y'all doing? You know what I mean? I don't know if they don't like what's going on, you know, with the girls down there. I don't know if they don't like the gentrification. I don't know if our image to them through things like hip hop have them viewing us a certain type of way, right? I have no idea. And I think that's kind of what scares me the most. I highly doubt that if I went down there again, I shouldn't even say that. I don't think it would happen to me again. And I definitely would move different. But it's kind of like, you know, I grew up in a pretty tough area. I don't want to have to be on alert on vacation. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't want to have my head on a swivel while I'm down there. It's not that nice to have to deal with that, right? Like, I'm there to kind of chill. You know what I'm saying? The city was cool. We met some cool local girls. I don't know. Like, it's going to be on ice for me for a little while, for sure. You know what I mean? And I'm not saying that to discourage anybody from going. Yeah, definitely go, definitely experience it. But, you know, move kind of cautious. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's not as bad as, you know, Pablo Escobar days, but shit, it's still Colombia. You know what I mean? Like, it's still that place. Those things can kind of happen, you know? So, I think it scares me not knowing why what happened that night happened. You know what I mean? So now I think I'm good for the immediate future.
Because you said you mentioned you would have moved a little differently. What would you have done differently to possibly avoid this situation?
I would have stayed in a hotel. I would have stayed in a hotel with security. And I would have taken an Uber to and from the nightclubs. And I probably wouldn't have gone to Yaris. Now I know hindsight's 2020, but I probably wouldn't go to Yaris Park at all. It's at night to club and stuff like that. It's just like, you know, the club was cool or whatever, but there's other places. There's so many people there. Like, there are locals who are like just kind of sitting in the park. And now that I look hindsight, it's like, you don't know who's kind of marking you there. You know what I mean? Like, you don't know what's kind of going on. So, I mean, I would have went during the daytime to experience the restaurants and all the rest of that stuff. But I definitely Uber is like $3 to $4 for like a 20, 30-minute ride anywhere. I would have been in those all the time. You know what I mean? There and forth. Like, I'll never walk anywhere at nighttime ever again. If I were to ever to go. And I definitely would have stayed in a hotel. I would have spent the extra. Actually, it wasn't even extra, but it was, I don't know. I think the hotels are like $80 to like $120 a night. And they're pretty nice. You know what I mean? I'm staying somewhere with security. And just random girls, man. Like, I don't think those girls had anything to do with it, but I would super vet those girls. And we didn't have a bunch of random girls or whatever. Again, we stayed with like kind of the same group who basically was our tour guides. But I can definitely see how, like, you know, running around with a bunch of girls could kind of get you in trouble too. And I think, like, I I think being American, Black American, is enough currency that like a lot of women are like interested in you down there. Like I think culturally we're kind of cool. So I think I wouldn't, you know, my advice, I wouldn't play on that too much. You know what I mean? I would definitely like chill, enjoy the city. You know what I'm saying? Do your thing, but yeah, hotel and Uber everywhere.
Okay. Well, I'm gonna drop a link, man. Do you have a little time? Maybe about another 30 minutes or so?
Yeah. Yep. I got a
Okay,
couple
let me
minutes.
go ahead and drop a link. And once again, man, if anybody wants to pull up, you know, maybe ask a few questions, please keep it clean. You know, I was living in Medellin for a year, and I heard of a lot of incidents while I was down there, a lot of horror stories. And I'm just glad you guys made it out there safe. I don't think nobody is ever going to know exactly what was the motive behind it, because it seemed like there was no initial motive, because the girls wasn't going to benefit of somebody getting killed. The police are right around the corner.
Right.
You know, like you say, as soon as they shot out some shots, the police probably heard it and were probably on their way.
Yep.
So I want to say it possibly could have been a random act of violence. I'm not sure. But I'm just glad you guys are safe and nobody was hurt. I think you said you might have, you know, skinned your knee or something like that.
Yeah. Yeah, it was difficult to walk a little bit, you know what I mean? But I'm probably like 80-90% now, so.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I want to give a shout out to Andre and Andrea Love Crossing Borders with the 10 mil Colombian peso. Man, I really appreciate that. We had a really good show yesterday, actually, a couple of days ago. He says, I'm glad the bro is well and learning from this incident, man. He's out there in Cali, Colombia. So appreciate the super chat, bro. You know, let me go ahead and bring on Global Passport Crew. Global Passport, you there?
Yeah, apologize again. I've been late for your shows all today, man, but just getting in. I wanted to ask him, what do you think was the cause for them to shoot at you?
Yeah, that's what we discovered.
So I don't know. I'm just gonna tell you how it felt in the moment, right? Like I don't know where you're from, but like to me, it felt like an initiation of some sort, or like earning stripes, right? Like, you know, sometimes there's like younger dudes in the neighborhood that are trying to do wild, crazy things to kind of make a name for themselves. That's what it felt like to me. Because, and some things that kind of backed it up to me is the guy was nervous and he seemed very inexperienced. He didn't know how to handle the gun correctly, right? He was point blank range. He missed like 3 times. The coordination between him and the driver was way off, because they were literally there on us, right? And I think that kind of saved our lives. So to me, he was either really young and inexperienced, or both, and it felt like a young dude or a kid trying to earn stripes. That's what it felt like, because there were no words exchanged. You know what I mean? Like even if you get into something with somebody, and they're probably like, "Yo, remember, you know, such and such." Oh, you know what I mean? Like there's some type of like interaction back and forth. Even if we got into it with them, you know, they'll scream something out while they go around shooting or something like. There's just nothing. You know what I mean? It was just silent, not one word the entire time. And I think that's the only thing I could possibly think of that makes any sense to me. You know what I mean? I mean, other kind of things, or maybe it was the girls. I don't think it was the girls, because the girls are the ones who went and got the cops for us when we ended up getting away, because we didn't speak Spanish that well to explain the situation. And the way they looked, their hearts were like about to jump out of their throats. So I don't think so. Was it like a jealous boyfriend or whatever? Maybe. But in that situation, I would think one of the girls would have screamed, "Yo, Jose," you know what I mean? No, you know what I mean? Some shit like that. You know what I mean? There was no words. They were gone. You know what I mean?
How much research did you do before you traveled in terms of knowing what was going on in terms of crime and all this other stuff? How much research did you do on that?
So I have a friend who has a channel. He's been to Medellin twice. I talked to him. I have cousins who are literally there, like a week and a half before we got there. They've been probably 3 or 4 times. And from the people that I talked to, and obviously a little bit on the whatever, from the people I talked to, everybody was like, Yaris Park. If you're in Yaris Park, that's the place to be. It's safe. That's where everything is going. Stay there. You know what I mean? Some other places, they still be trying to do some craziness. But if you're there, cool. I actually have another cousin who stayed. What's the other nice neighborhood? It's Yaris Park, and then it's La Centas or something like that. I don't know.
La Setenta?
Something like that.
La Relis?
Laurelis, right? It's across, right? Laurelis. He stayed over there. He's like, yo, that's also a nice area. You're good. You know what I mean? And the first night that we were there, I made sure that we booked a street tour with a local. So I was expecting, if there are things to know or not to know, that he would explain it to us this night. And the only thing he mentioned to us is watch out for those girls. Don't get drugged. I got drugged before. There was no mention of anything else. You know what I mean? He wasn't like, yo, don't walk home at this time. Actually, when the street tour ended probably around 1:00. And it wasn't like, yo, don't walk here. Or make sure you guys get in an Uber. You know what I mean? I would be expecting, like, if he thought it was dangerous for us or we were doing something, he would have said something. But there was nothing.
Well,
Essentially, you there?
Yes, sir. I'm here.
All right, go ahead. You have a question?
Yeah, I just thank you for having me, man. Appreciate everything you do. And I just want to say that, gentlemen, we always, at all times, have to have that awareness, that alertness, no matter where we go. Even here in the United States, we have situations that we have to encounter and deal with and navigate on a regular basis. It should be a little bit even more heightened so when we're abroad, because of the economic challenges that those demographics may have. And I'm not trying to sound like, we can't just chill out and really enjoy ourselves, but we always have to keep that awareness, that masculine frame, that alertness, understanding where we at, where we come from, and keeping that close. It's not saying to relax and not enjoy your vacation, but we always have to be on high alert, because we've been targets basically around the globe for many years. Not trying to be pessimistic about it, but we always have to maintain that awareness, please, because when we lose being in touch with reality and our circumstances, either here, there, and anywhere, we get a little bit too relaxed, and then those situations and environments turn into some unfortunate situations sometimes, or potentially unfortunate situations, and we have to be vigilant at all times, please. You know what I'm saying? And I appreciate what the brother is doing, because I took trips and stuff like that, and it's true. Getting your passport, taking a trip, taking a vacation is a lot less expensive than therapy, and
Travel cheaper than therapy. That's what the shirts.
Appreciate you. And we just have been basically, just overlooked, unappreciated, taken advantage of here in the society that we build, right? We built the society. We make this thing run and operate every single day. And we're not really appreciated and validated for our contributions. And sometimes that frustration can go external and internal. And I just appreciate what y'all guys doing. I love it. I promote it to my sons, my nieces, my nephews, and even my nieces. Because the reason why I tell my nieces, and I'm going to be real with y'all guys, I tell my nieces to go outside the country, because they realize, you can't drink the toilet water out there and not go to the hospital. In America, we can drink the toilet water and not go to the hospital, man. See, people, we get so privileged here, and we get so entitled here, that we completely misunderstand the reality for most of the planet Earth in these situations. And we have to always keep that in mind when we go there, because those folks is under some situations where it's not as beneficiary as what we came up in. So be high alert, be attentive, be aware all the time. Love y'all brothers, you know what I mean? And love what you do, fam. You know what I mean? And I just wanted to just contribute to that, and I hope it was useful.
Sure.
And I want to thank you, Sher Weezy, for coming on and telling us your story, man. Because it's a lot of incidents, when foreigners go out there, and a lot of guys will feel ashamed or embarrassed to tell, other people what happened to them, because there's a lot of incidents that happen all the time. In general, we are easy targets in a lot of these countries overseas, and it takes a strong amount of courage to present the story in the way you did and explain to you, and because you gave a real detailed account within the Facebook group. It was like a pretty detailed, exactly what happened, man. And I really thank you for that, bro. And I know you got to deal with some of the victim blame and everything like that, but to me, this could happen to anybody. Listen, when I was in Medellin, I walked home a lot at night, 2, 3, 4 in the morning. Fortunately, I didn't have any incidents, and I would walk with, groups of guys coming from the park, coming just all over. And I would sense certain things, I would try to avoid going to the ATM at night, or, I would always, we would watch our back. And there is a lot of police in Poblado. But I just appreciate you sharing your story, brother. Thank you for coming on the show and letting us know exactly what happened, so guys can move a little bit more better accordingly when they're overseas, man. I want to welcome Love Crossing Borders Andre to the show.
Hey, gentlemen. Good evening.
Hey, Dre.
What's going on? On track, man. I see you back there, man, but you got a lot of feedback. You might want to come on back in. Go ahead, Andre.
Yeah, I'm just want to say I'm glad that the brother's doing well. Like I put in the super chat, that he and the other gentlemen are doing well and are back home safely. I was looking up some stats. Just want you guys to realize this, that even when it comes, and this stat was in regards to shooting and just violent crimes in general.
Mm-hmm.
The number one tourist city in the United States, which I used to live in, is Orlando, Florida, outside of Vegas. Mm-hmm. Orlando, Florida gets 2.2 million visitors every year. Colombia, just Medellin alone, gets 1.4 million, so it's not too far off. The crimes against tourists in Orlando is 8.23% of every 1,000. That means that like 3%, almost like almost 9% of people, just 8 people for every 1,000 people that visit Orlando. 8 people, something happens to them. Whether it's robbery, whether it be pickpocketing, whether it be physical altercations, at least 8 people that'll happen to per 1,000. Mm-hmm. In Medellin, it is only 2.3%. That means that for every 1,000 people that go to Medellin, maybe 2 people might end up in an incident. So when and actually in 2022, that was an all-time low. So when we sit back and we think that it's actually going up, actually, statistically, it's starting to showcase, and it was worse way back in the day compared to what it is now. Mm-hmm. My point is that the brother was right. His incident is a very isolated incident. And so oftentimes that's why it gets attention, because it's isolated. So it is with the guys that get drugged. So it is with the guys that get pickpocketed or they get their cell phone stolen. For the most part, out of 1.4 million people that go to this one city every year, it is not the norm. It is not the norm. So I just want guys to feel comfortable with the fact that, yes, these incidences occur. And yes, they may happen in the same geographical location, because most tourists usually go to El Poblado. But do feel comfortable with the fact that El Poblado is not Medellin. I want to say that one more time. That El Poblado little pool area that most foreign tourists go to, whether it be from Europe or whether from the States, you go there. And I did the same thing. And many of us did. That was where we cut our teeth in Colombia. Mm-hmm. El Poblado is not Medellin. And once you start touring in Medellin, you're going to meet more people like that guy that came out the truck to help you guys, or he blew his horn. Yeah, that's Medellin. Not the guys that came after you. I want you guys to remember this. There are more good people, far more good people in Colombia that will have your back in every way, including those young ladies you were walking with, far more than the criminal elements that walk through. And that's why the guy blew his horn. And that's why the guy came out and made sure you got your cell phone, because those are real Colombian people, not the thieves. And also, they want to let you know that, listen, we're tired of it too. That's another thing that people don't realize, that Colombian people aren't sitting back silently, cowering in a corner. They're complaining to the police. They're complaining to the media, because these same crimes, and Aaron can attest to this from being there, these same crimes are happening to locals as well. So don't think that when you guys come to Colombia, they're targeting you because you're black, or they're targeting you because of this, you're a tourist. To a certain extent, yes, but they're just as fast to sit back and try to do something to a local as well as doing something to a foreigner. I just want you guys to know those stats in regards to the difference, that crimes are still happening at home in the States in the tourist areas, just like they're happening in the tourist area of Medellin. Once you guys get out of Medellin, as Aaron can attest to, you start to experience the real Colombia, not the parqueyeras, not the party club scene. I like what the brother said earlier when he said, maybe we should start doing more things in the daytime. I like what the YouTuber Coop Corner said. He said, I haven't been in a club in 9 years. This dude has over 54,000 subscribers. And he's only had one club scene when he just recently went to Thailand. What does that mean? That there is so much more to showcase to other brothers that we can do in the daytime, that a lot of times we sit back and we only watch the YouTubers that show us stuff that we can do at night. So do realize there's a lot, just like you said earlier, brother, there's a lot of Medellin that you can really enjoy that's taking place in the daytime and not just at night.
That's a very good
I
point.
have a question for Dre. Andre, the stats you provided, could you ask me, why is it that the State Department on their travel advisory has Colombia as level 3, which is reconsider travel, which is basically kind of next to severe, like don't go to that country because of the crime. And basically you're giving us stats that says opposite.
Absolutely. I'm glad that you asked that. You asked about the level 3 in regards to the State Department website. I'm always on their website, so I know exactly what you're talking about. First thing, we're gonna go just in order. First thing is, you're a U.S. taxpayer. They don't want you to be comfortable with any country. Don't ever think that the United States will ever encourage you to travel to any country outside of its islands or its borders in regards to where it has control. You can go to the Philippines, you can go to Guam, you can go to the Virgin Islands, but they will never support you to go to any other country. They'll always remind you of the negativity of any country. You can't name one country that they don't tell you about the negativity of. Now, secondly, when it comes to what they have on the State Department, yes, just like the United States, I'm from Detroit. They could put Detroit at the most dangerous city in the world, or Baltimore, or Philly, or Boston, or times in LA. But the everyday person that lived in LA knew we had nothing to do with those crimes. 99% of LA is not part of the gang atmosphere, just like 99% of Chicago and Detroit are not pimps and players. But they just, instead of just talk about there's a certain area of a city or a certain area of a country or a town, they take it and they pull everybody together because it's easier to do those statistics. So they'll say, don't go to that particular country, not telling you that if you go to that city or that particular region in a particular city, that's the dangerous area. For example, I've been living here in Cali, Colombia for 6 years, no issues. Why? I know the rules of the city. I don't go on the east side. Why? I know that's the ultra poor. Why am I on the east side during the dark? And I know I'm an American. That makes no sense. And I know what type of crimes that take place on that side. So when the State Department says certain things, they're generalizing. Remember, once again, back to point number 1, they don't want you to go to other countries. Why is this, Andre? You're a taxpayer. They do not want to lose another taxpayer getting comfortable in Italy, another taxpayer getting comfortable in Portugal, in Guyana, in in parts of Africa and parts of Southeast Asia. The last thing they want you to do is go visit someplace and actually say, I think I want to live here. That's why you'll never see a commercial for a passport. So always remember those three things. A, when the State Department put out that information, it always pulls it's easier to do the stat of a whole region than to sit back and say, it's this particular area where you'll see most of the crimes that take place. Secondly, they will never encourage you to go visit other places, at least long encourage you to get a passport. Thirdly, they need you to stay in the States, because if you fall in love with another country, you are a taxpayer that they do not get that money. Once we live outside the United States, for example, and I don't want to continue to ramble, I give you a perfect example of what I mean by taxpayer. Once you decide to become an expat, you file taxes. According to your passport, line number 4 on the last page, it says you must file your taxes. That's on your passport. But over 98% of expats don't pay taxes. We file taxes. We don't have to pay taxes. Why is that, Andre? Because once you become an expat, if you live outside the United States for 330 days of the year, you get what's called an exemption. That means that you get exemption of $108,000. If you fall up under that threshold, all you do is file the exemption form along with your regular taxes, and you're good. To whereas you're in the States, you guys are coming out of your paycheck. Every time you get a paycheck, you're paying taxes. The only thing, especially if you don't have any state taxes, like I'm from Florida, I don't have any state taxes. So the only taxes I pay are towards Social Security or investment tax. Like if I pull from my investments, and I have to pay taxes on those things. But the United States doesn't want you to know that. And so they're going to always tell you fear monger. We do that with every election. Listen, if you don't vote for me, if you don't vote for me, this is going to happen. So that's the routine. So always remember, and that's why I gave the stats of Colombia, or just Medellin, having over 1.4 million visitors last year. And yet it was only crimes that took place to 2.38%. And I'm talking about violent crimes, not just crimes in general, violent crimes towards individuals. Not, mind you, nobody wants any percent to take place. But we know that we're humans, and if you're walking among humans, things could occur. And so what I recommend for people, try to find more things to do in the daytime, A. B, try to go to more club areas where, especially if you're hanging out with locals, where the real clubs. Just like when we go with locals, we say, where the real restaurants at in New Orleans. So it is when it comes to coming to Colombia. I'm not about to sit up there and go with all the tourists, go and pay all the tourist prices. I want to go to the real clubs where the real Afro-Colombians are hanging out, where the real Machista Colombians are hanging out, and hang out with them where they go. But we're so comfortable because our Spanish is lame or weak, or we're not comfortable. It's our first time in Colombia, and all I heard about was Parqueyeras. Pronounce it right, people, please. Parqueyeras, 2 L's make a Y sound in Spanish. So at the end of the day, guys, just change up your format, and just like the one brother said, maybe do more things in the daytime and just not automatically lean on the nightlife. And if you do lean on the nightlife, don't automatically just take Parqueyeras as the place to be, because as we can tell, it's not always the safest place to go to. And that's why I used Orlando as an example.
Good point. Good explanation. I want to welcome, is that P Money Patrick Blackrock? That's a long name,
yes,
man.
Sir. Yes, sir.
Hey, what's going
on? Hey, hello. BMT, Black Man's Travel. Andre with Love Travels, crossing borders. So I've been watching you guys, and I appreciate the information you are putting out there in regards to brothers actually exploring their options. The reason why I came into the stream to reiterate what Andre was saying, try going out in the daytime. And me, originally, I'm from Nigeria. I remember when I was in Nigeria, when Americans or other people from the Western world come in and they want to go out to try different places, usually locals in their minds are thinking tourist locations. because they be thinking this is what these people like. That's what other tourists or other experts hang out. So let me take him to that place. And those places become hot spots for crimes because, you know, those criminals, they know the people who go over there are usually loaded. They, you know, they got some money. You know, even if they get $200, when you translate it to the local currency, that's a lot of money.
Mm-hmm.
Rather than them going to local spots. And local spots, the local guys are more aware of what's going on around them. They can scoop out who's sketchy, who doesn't belong. When I was in Nigeria, I could scoop out someone who's getting ready to rob someone. Who, you know, when you live in a place and you from a place, you could tell the difference. Whereas if you are a traveler, if you are traveling, everyone kind of looks almost the same to you. Like you can't distinguish. You can't distinguish. Okay, this guy, I need to watch out for that. That doesn't seem right. You are in a foreign country. Everything seems foreign, especially when the language is even foreign. You can't read the signs. So
Facts.
I say this to say that when you going out with the locals, like Andrea was saying, you ask them where's the real spots. I want to hang out where the locals hang out. I don't want to go to the tourist places where you pay the gringo price, which is usually double or triple in some areas. I want to go to the local spots. I want to hang out where you guys hang out. And that opens you up to the real cultural experience. You get that cultural immersion, whichever place you go, whether it's in Africa, in Asia, in the Americas, in Europe. That's when you get that real culture. You could actually say, yes, I went this place, I tried this. You start to understand why the people from that region, why they do things the way they do it. And I've been traveling around the world, and I can't remember the last time that I was actually in a club. I can't even remember that. The last time I was in a club. And you can have more fun linking up with people from where you going, the ladies. There are so much fun to do in wherever that place is rather than just go down a nightclub.
That's a good
And
point.
once you start living in that place and you get acclimated, then it's okay to go out. So now you know what's what. You know which areas not to have your, you know, to be at a certain point. You know, it's unfortunate that that happened to this brother. You know, I thank God that he's okay. He's all right. The story could have been different.
Mm-hmm.
It could have been a different story. You know, that slug could have went through. Where, you know, it could have been a tragedy. So I say this to say that, brothers, when you're traveling, let's try to be more situational aware and try not to put ourselves in sketchy situations, locations, daytime, going out, traveling during the daytime, and having the locals actually take you to places that they hang out at. You know, from my experience, when I was living in Nigeria, the crime usually don't take place around where the locals are. It's usually where the you know the house spots where they think they know they can, you know, if they rob this person, they can get a lot of money from. So
Yeah,
I don't.
you absolutely right, man. Because if you look at it from their angle, from their standpoint, all right, you got a gringo, basically a foreigner, doesn't speak the language, doesn't know exactly where he's at, and he has to go back. More likely, he's going back home very soon, right?
Yes.
So, looking at all those factors at play, you are the perfect target in their eyes if you're looking at it from their standpoint, right? That's just why you never answer the question if you know talking to let's say a lady that you're not familiar with or whatnot, and she asks you when you're leaving, you never tell her. You just
Never.
say, hey, I
I'm gonna
live
be
here.
here for a
Or,
while.
I'll be
Yeah,
here for a while, something like that.
yeah.
You know, be
Yeah, but
very vague about, you know, your whereabouts. Even you got to be even careful about posting on social media when you're overseas as well.
yeah,
You know,
don't do that either. You know, capture everything that you need to capture, whether it's video footage,
hmm
photos, and do that when you leave the country. You know, in Nigeria, it's almost like that second nature. You never tell people how long you're gonna be at a particular place.
hmm
You never, if you travel, you leave in next week. Yeah, I'm gonna be here for a while. I got a lot of projects going on. You know, you never tell them because that you want to minimize the amount of information that you divulge about yourself and where you're gonna be, what you're doing, and who you know. Because
that's fact.
sometimes people be, they be scooping out. You think they're a friend, they are your friends. They just asking a couple of questions, putting two and two
Mhm.
together, knowing, hey, maybe he lives alone. Uh, he goes to this place at this certain amount of time. He leaves this amount of valuables. That place is not that much secure. They just kind of scooping out. So
Mhm.
don't make yourself a target. Just trying to minimize the amount of information that you divulge, especially to someone that you don't really know that deeply, that you really don't know a lot about.
Good point. Good
Another
point.
statistic, that I really hear people talk about when it comes to Medellin, guys, is Medellin does not have that many Afro-Colombians. So when you are in the few Afro-Colombian compared to other major cities,
hmm
so therefore you're walking down the street, and it's not about racism, but you have to consider race in this. You're walking down the street in Parque Yeris. Let's be real. You're in an area that most people in South America can't even afford to even be in, and you're black. The only people that should be in this area are people that are either hustling, people that are either looking to get hustled, or people that work. The staff, the cooks, the chefs, the bartenders. Oh, they should be in Parque Yeris. The people that scratch it because they fiending, they should be in Parque Yeris. And even those people of color are not catching the train from one side of the city to get their fix on. So only people that's out there are the street hustlers. That might be a few brothers out there, the ladies of the night, the staff, and you. And so
hmm
the fact that there are not that many, now you come to Cali, or you go to Cartagena, or you go to parts of Bogota, you blend right in. But I think the mistake that a lot of brothers, I think it's the first time somebody said this, a lot of brothers aren't realizing there statistically, it's not that many brothers down there. And when you do see brothers in Colombia, and Aaron, correct me if I'm wrong, in Medellin, they don't hang in Parque Yeris. They got their own clubs, their own areas, their own spots, but they don't necessarily always rush to Parque Yeris. Am I correct? Because most of them can't afford to be in those tourist areas. So when they see
Yeah,
you as
that's
a
right.
brother out there, they're like, you standing out just because you're a brother down here and you ain't got no work uniform on.
Yeah, I think that's true. And I had mentioned on the other thing, like I'm not saying that I got shot at because I'm black, but I also felt
Right.
like being in a group of 3 black men, they knew what was up, right? So like
Correct.
because a lot of people like, oh, you guys had jewelry and whatever, unless they spotted us from way before. This dude, it was so dark and where he was at, he couldn't see anything on us. He couldn't tell if we had bags or if we had jewelry. I think they just saw a group of 3 dudes and were like, oh, y'all with 3 girls, y'all 3 black dudes. Like, we know what y'all here. You know what I mean? So, like, I think that's what made them pull up, immediately. Now, why they chose shoot first, ask questions later, have no idea with that. But I think you're right. Like I was saying, when you go to Parque Yeris, the nightclub, like I said, there's us, there's girls, and the people work there. There are no local dudes there of any race. You know what I mean? It's just America. So it's like And people are like, oh, you're wearing shorts. It's like, dude, I could wear whatever. And like they're gonna know I'm different. We're just different. You know what I mean? Like we walk different, like everything is different. You know what I mean? So they already know what time it is. You know what I mean? I definitely would get my. I don't think I'm going any place like that until I'm like almost fluent again. I will say that like I definitely want to be able to have and hold conversations and also understand what's being said around me. I think that's the most one of the biggest things like you kind of take for granted because when people talk about keeping your head on a swivel, that's one of the things I do when I'm home. I'm always listening to what's kind of going on around you, and you don't know what's going on around you. Like girls are texting on their phones. You don't know what they texting. They calling on the phone. You know what I mean? You don't have no idea what's going on. So definitely on my Duolingo as soon as I get off here.
Good point, man. Good point. Knowing the language is very, very important. But guys, I'm gonna go ahead and wrap the show up. I don't want to make it too long, and I want to be, I know Sharizi, has things to do. It's getting late out there, so I want to just thank everybody for coming on the show. I appreciate you once again, man, for telling us, your story and having the courage to let people know exactly, the situation that happened to you in Colombia, man. So once again, appreciate that.
No doubt, man. And again, I loved my time in Medellin outside of, the craziness. I definitely don't want to discourage people, but I definitely want people to understand, there are certain ways you should move, and I wish that I might have heard this story before I even went. I would have moved even more careful. I thought I was moving careful, but I got a little lazy. I ain't gonna lie. Cause, like my brother said, most of the Colombian guys down there, even the guys who look like they were like, could be something, they just showed us mad love. Like the entire, even on Parque Yeras, hey, what's up, man? 50 Cent, this and that. And they're trying to like bond with us and all the rest of it. So I definitely let my guard down a little bit because again, most of those, like this picture we took here, guy, he saw us with our national shirts and he got a tattoo in the middle of his chest. He could be anybody, but he's, he showed us some love, gave him a couple of dollars. Every time we saw him, yo, my man, what's up, brother? So we did get a little bit, whatever, but for the most part, we got a lot of love from the local Colombians. And then, that one thing happened a couple hours before we were about to leave. But I did enjoy my time out there outside of that.
All right, man. Well, once again, appreciate you coming on. Everybody on the panel, appreciate y'all, man. Till next time.
Peace, brothers.
Peace.